Legends of Wasteland City is a post-apocalyptic anthology series and may contain references to drugs, sex, and violence, along with the occasional vulgarity. You've been warned. Skofield's Drifters, Contingencies, Chapter 3. Doc Skofield looked over at his captain, sitting in the cab next to him as he worked the gears.
Tell me again how you found a deuce and a half between New Reno and here?
I borrowed it.
Digit's dusty boots propped up on the massive dash.
Great. Who do we have to pay off or run from now?
She grinned over at him.
This time? No one. Unless you don't plan on returning it when we're done.
She patted the door affectionately, the metal producing a dull clang.
This beauty was a scav up off of old 80 by New Reno. I cut a deal to use it, fair and square.
You mean you really borrowed it?
Doc raised an eyebrow.
I suppose we'd better take care of it if we actually have to return it. Wouldn't do to harm your reputation.
It would make life more complicated to have the Black Sands mercenaries gunning for us too.
I agree. We're having enough challenges keeping track of the tribes we're actively pissing off. Let's keep our inadvertent enemies down to a manageable level.
At least until we've got either more allies or more insurance. There is the matter of the rental fee.
How much?
They like explosives a lot.
How much?
Enough to blow up a medium-sized building. Say one is big enough to hold about 20 people.
2 charges should be enough. I won't complain about that. But let's be careful how much we barter away. First of all, we have a lot, but not an infinite amount. And moreover, we don't want to attract any more attention to ourselves, or we'll have to deal with the pesky marshal in addition to the sheriff.
Digit shook her head, the bits and pieces tied to her war braids clinking softly.
I trust Leo to be discreet. I've done business with him before, and from all accounts, his outfit knows what they're doing.
Okay, that's good enough for me.
The pair continued through the familiar eastern California foothills until they came to the secure drop site they had negotiated with the Grand Imperator. Doc had chosen this location for several reasons. First, the collapsed cooling towers kept most riffraff away. Even though his previous surveys had shown there was no longer any radiation, people tended to remain jumpy around the old nuke plants. Second, it was far enough from the Imperator's stomping grounds to make an ambush unlikely. Not that he didn't trust the man, he just didn't see any reason to give him temptations. And finally, the route back to his current headquarters passed by multiple cache sites, so they could disperse the trove quickly. He drove through the main gate and noted the tripwire he rigged there last time was still in place. No guarantee that someone clever hadn't moved in and seen the wire, but the road looked fairly undisturbed except for one set of massive fresh tracks that he assumed were from the Imperator's famous half-track rig. He drove the truck to the facility room he had earmarked on the contract and backed up to the dock. The 2 drifters jumped down and drew their weapons before entering the building. After so many years of working with her, Doc knew better than to suggest Digits pull her Colt Python instead of the short sword. If there was anybody inside, she was going to charge them hell-bent for leather, closing the distance before they could draw a bead on her. Hopefully. Doc made sure he had slugs loaded in both breeches of his short-barrel 12-gauge. He didn't want to catch Digits in any buckshot spread. They came in through the side door. She went low, with him going high, so he'd have a clear line of fire. But only a flock of scared pigeons greeted them. They made their way to the stockpile. Doc Skofield whistled in appreciation.
That, Captain, is one shit ton of C4.
Digit's grin turned into a frown.
Wait a minute.
She walked over to the pallets and counted.
22! Oh, that no-good fucking trucker slag lifted 2 crates.
Her face was on its way to going as red as her war paint.
Stars and stones. When I find that fucking thief, I'm gonna peel that truck open like a sardine can and cut every brick out of his hide. I'll tear that piece of crap apart and sell it for scrap.
Digits, really. Hold on a minute there, Tiger.
Doc scanned a paper nailed to one of the cases.
Says here he ran into some raiders on the way in. He dealt with them, but took 2 cases for his inconvenience and to pay for that 50 cal he used up. That seems fair.
Fair? We're paying less than a case to use his truck for a week. Doc, you were just lecturing me about holding on to this stuff. Now you're shrugging off losing enough to demo a small town?
Relax. He's not demoing anything without detonators. We can make a good bit of our loss back when we cut him a deal at the gathering. Now, let's get this loaded up and hightail it out of here.
Contingencies was written by Digits and Doc Skofield of Skofield's Drifters, and adapted for audio by Mike Makeshift Darling. Narrated and edited by Makeshift. Doc Skofield was played by Jay Preston, and Digits was played by Meghan Hensley. Legends of Wasteland City is a production of The Apocalypse Post. Stick around after the break for more info about today's episode.
In the wasteland, you no get radiation. Radiation get you. But you can build your tolerance with concentrated formulas today. Dr. Prepper Labs is developed concentrated formula therapy. We can help build up your tolerance to those pesky ionizing particles with gradual, healthy doses of X-rays, gamma rays, and quasi-stable ionizing particle exposures. Dr. Prepper, your particle accelerator.
Dr. Prepper may not be available in your area due to, well, even the most basic health regulations. But you can still get a Dr. Prepper propaganda poster in the Apocalypse Outpost merch store. Link in the show notes. Hello, survivors. This is Makeshift, your director-narrator-producer of all things, The Apocalypse Post. How are you enjoying Legends of Wasteland City so far? This week we caught back up with Digits and Doc as they took inventory of the massive pile of C4 they bartered for, which of course involves a visit to an old nuclear plant. There's just something so perfect about a nuclear plant in a post-apocalypse story, juxtaposing the promise of nuclear power, especially thinking back to the nuclear age of the 50s and 60s. Clean, limitless energy that could last generations, and of course save the planet. But that came along with the fact that that same material could blow cities off the face of the earth and was the main wild card during the Cold War, as well as most ideas of what a World War III would look like. A whole lot of nuclear bombs. But now Doc and Digits have a truckload of explosives that they have to do something with, and we'll be seeing how they do that in the next chapter. Guys, if you're enjoying Legends of Wasteland City and you want a lot more, consider joining the Patreon. Since we began this story, which is Contingencies, by and about the Skofields Drifters, I gave myself a challenge of reaching 50 patrons, and actually, we've gained a few so far. Really exciting, which gets us closer to that goal. Just in the last few weeks, Frag Scrap Hands, Sin Edge, Ian Krull, Will Machen, and The Baron have all joined the Patreon, and I appreciate every one of you for doing that. And plus, I don't want to forget all the patrons that have been there forever. Thank you guys so much. And along with that, I got some great feedback about Legends of Wasteland City from a few of them. Plus, the Baron, the last one I mentioned there, will be doing some voice work on the next episode. So you're definitely not going to want to miss it. He's been on the show a few times, doing some interviews and storytelling, and he's always just an absolute hoot. And his character, I don't want to spoil anything, but his character in the next episode is definitely entertaining. You're going to love it. Yeah, definitely consider joining the Patreon. We've got 11 to go by the time we're done with Legends of Wasteland City Contingencies. Don't worry, there's more stories after that. I want to hit 50 by the time we're done with Contingencies. So you've heard 3 episodes so far. We've got 3 to go and 11 patrons to go, at least. At least. All I'm saying is, if it's more than 50, even better, right? But it really helps to keep the stories going. These episodes, I know, this is crazy. They're shorter than my normal episodes, but they take way longer to produce. There's just a lot behind it. I don't want to go into the details, but just know that I really enjoy doing the work and I want to keep it going. And I'm hoping that you guys want to keep hearing more. So definitely consider supporting the show any way you can. And speaking of keeping the show going, if you guys have a story that fits into the Legends of Wasteland City lore world of lore, consider submitting it for possible inclusion into season 2. Even if it's incomplete, I don't mind kind of like working with you guys and helping to polish some things out. I have to do that with these anyway, because I need to rewrite them into a script form to send over to my VO artists. Anyway, definitely consider that. I would love to get some more stories involved in the show and to start figuring out what season 2 is going to look like. Also, the new makeshift t-shirts, the ones with a wonderful artist rendering of me on them, are still on pre-sale. If you're interested, get your order in so that I know how many to order for this first shipment. I'll even throw in, ready guys? I'm going to sweeten the pot, a free Apocalypse Post patch with every shirt ordered. So you're going to get your shirt and a patch to sew right onto it in one delivery. Think about that. Sounds pretty cool, right? For those of you who are only listening to the podcast audio only, whether it's on Spotify or Apple Pods or anywhere else, I've also been throwing some new stuff on the YouTube. So no matter where you're listening, make sure you're listening in multiple places because there's going to be some exclusive content that does not cross over, especially the stuff on the YouTube that doesn't make sense to throw on the podcast. I've been throwing up some new songs on there, some original songs that I wrote over the last few years. A couple of them that I wrote for a Valentine's Day special put on by the Rec Room, who's a Wasteland tribe. They're kind of fun. I hope you enjoy them. I'm not a professional musician by any means, but I'm having a lot of fun getting stuff out there. And when I do play them, people ask where they can listen, and I haven't had them recorded professionally yet, but this is kind of close to that. It's something that you can play on demand and hear them. Anyway, check them out if you want. They're kind of fun. I enjoy them. I enjoy playing them, and I enjoy when people listen to them. So yeah, make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube and listen to the podcast wherever you like to get them, just so you don't miss anything, because there's stuff everywhere. Also, check out my Instagram, @theapocalypsepost, where I'm hoping to get some more content posted up there. It's a little bit of a back burner, the Instagram, but there'll be more stuff up there. Don't worry, especially as the Patreon grows and I can devote more and more time to the Apocalypse Post in general. In other news, Legends of Wasteland City got a great mention from Chris Mad Dog Russell over on another Apocalypse Story podcast called After the Apocalypse. You've heard him on the Apocalypse Post before. We did a full interview and kind of talked a little bit about his show, but that was really early on in season 1. And now he is well into season 2, and the story has really taken off. It's been really fun to listen to. The episodes keep getting longer. There's a lot more characters. There's a lot more going on, moving pieces. And I've just been enjoying the hell out of the show. So if you haven't listened yet, it's called After the Apocalypse. It's a podcast. You can find it anywhere. I'll put a link in the show notes and check it out. It's a blast. And the voiceover, the narrator is absolutely fantastic. It's really fun. But fun fact, After the Apocalypse is one of the things that helped inspired me to start doing Legends of Wasteland City, because I just really enjoyed listening to the stories and I remembered, hey, I love telling these stories too. And also on that note, if you first heard that little teaser that we put on After the Apocalypse and decided to give Legends of Wasteland City a try, I hope you like what you're hearing. Leave me a note on the Apocalypse Post Facebook page and let me know what you think so far. Again, you can join that Apocalypse Post Facebook page to get everything that we're working on, because everything gets posted there. That's just at facebook.com/ or just / the Apocalypse Post. And again, link in the show notes, guys. There's also another Apocalypse podcast I think you guys should check out. It's called Ash Tales. It's been around for a little while, and it's totally worth a listen if you haven't heard it yet. It's almost exclusively short stories, and it's kind of episodic where, it's not a continued story. Each one is its own little island of a wonderful tale. It's narrated wonderfully by its British creator. His name's Ryan Law. Anyway, I just think it's worth a listen. So if you haven't gotten to yet, take a chance on it. It's called Ash Tales, and it's great. Really fun. I think that's going to be about it for today's episode, survivors. Make sure that you're subscribed wherever you're listening, and if you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to share it with a friend. And if you hated it, share it with your enemies, just without detonators. Until next time, survivors, stay alive.